My dear friends, let's begin by being brutally honest. Focus in this age isn't something you simply have, it's something you fight for. 2. And the moment you wake up, the battle begins. You are thrust into a psychological war zone where your attention is the prize. Everything around you, algorithms. 2. Advertisements, distractions disguised as opportunities, is crafted with one singular aim to fragment your awareness. 2. And what's more troubling is that many people walk right into this ambush day after day without even realizing they're under attack. Now, why is that? 2. Because distraction wears a friendly mask. It doesn't come with a sword or a gun. It comes in the form of a scroll, a notification, a subtle buzz in your pocket that says, just check this real quick. But behind that veil is something far more sinister. The slow erosion of your capacity to concentrate, to think deeply, to become who you are meant to be. And if you don't choose your enemies wisely in this internal war, you will end up fighting battles that don't matter and losing the war that does. Your focus isn't being stolen randomly. It's being targeted, because where your attention goes, your energy flows. And that energy could be used to write a book, build a business, restore a broken relationship, or confront a deep internal truth. But instead, it's siphoned into the abyss of trivial content, constant comparison, and endless noise. You see, we tend to think that the real danger lies in failure or poverty or pain. But I'd argue the real danger is distraction, because distraction hides failure. 2, it numbs poverty. It drowns out the pain instead of helping you transform it. Distraction gives you relief without resolution. That's not freedom. That's anesthetized stagnation. To reclaim your life, you must treat your attention as sacred. Guard it, invest it. Choose deliberately what you will look at. 2, what you will listen to, what you will allow to enter your mind, because everything you let in either reinforces your future or rewires you away from it. 2, the battlefield is not out there. It's in here, in the mind, in the will, in the small, unnoticed moments where you either give in or go deep. 2. And if you don't fight for your focus, someone else will win with it. We often underestimate just how deeply our attention shapes who we are. 2. But if you take a moment to really think about it, you'll realize that what you choose to focus on, consistently, habitually, literally sculpts your identity. 2, not metaphorically, literally, every time you direct your attention towards something, you are reinforcing neural patterns. You're strengthening a set of ideas, values, and narratives about reality. And over time, those patterns become your personality, your character, your perception of the world. This isn't just psychology. It's philosophy. Because when you concentrate on something, you're making a statement about what you believe matters. If you constantly focus on what you lack, you become someone shaped by scarcity. If you focus on blame, you begin to see yourself as a victim. And if you focus on virtue, discipline, and responsibility, you start to embody those very things. In other words, attention is the forge in which character is formed. 2, there's a dangerous misconception in modern culture that identity is something we passively discover, like some buried treasure inside us. But that's wrong. 2, identity is forged through action and attention. You become what you voluntarily attend to. You don't find yourself, you build yourself, piece by piece, choice by choice, focus by focus. So when people ask, why am I anxious? Why am I restless? Why do I feel lost? One of the most honest responses is to ask them, 2, what have you been consistently focusing on? Because chances are the pattern of their internal state mirrors the pattern of their external attention. 2, this is why fighting for your focus matters. It's not just about productivity. It's not even about clarity. It's about becoming. If your attention is hijacked, so is your identity. You end up living someone else's life, guided by algorithms, by trends, by social expectation, rather than the deeper truth that resides within you. Focus then becomes a sacred responsibility, Because in every moment of attention, 2, you're not just watching something, you're shaping someone, and that someone is you. So ask yourself, what are you repeatedly allowing your eyes to rest upon? 2. Because whatever that is, it's silently, persistently turning you into its reflection. The truth is, your mind doesn't naturally drift toward order. 2, it drifts toward chaos, toward ease, toward whatever demands the least effort and gives the quickest reward. And in a world engineered for comfort and novelty, that tendency becomes incredibly dangerous. Because the more comfort you seek, the more chaos you invite. And nowhere is this more evident than in the battle for focus. 2, people often say they just need better time management or better habits. But the real issue runs deeper. The mind doesn't want focus, it resists it. 2, because focus requires structure. It demands that you ignore 1,000 tempting distractions and face the often uncomfortable reality of sustained effort. 2, that's why discipline feels like suffering at first. It's your mind wrestling against its own nature. Think about it, scrolling is easy. Thinking deeply is hard. To watching passively is easy. Creating intentionally is hard. Avoiding pain is easy. Confronting the truth, especially when it demands change, is hard. So if you're not careful, you start to equate what's easy with what's good. And that is a fatal mistake. 2, discipline is not the enemy of freedom, it's the foundation of it. Without discipline, your focus becomes enslaved to whatever feels good in the moment. 2, you become reactive, not reflective. Distracted, not directed. And that's when people begin to lose not just their time, but their sense of self. 2, because every time you avoid discipline, you're reinforcing the idea that your momentary comfort is more important than your long-term potential. 2, now here's the paradox, the discomfort you feel when focusing, when sticking to structure, when saying no to instant gratification. That's not suffering in the destructive sense. That's voluntary suffering. That's the kind of pain that purifies. 2, that elevates, that carves you into something stronger. It's the cost of becoming who you could be. So don't avoid the discomfort. Recognize it for what it truly is, to the birthplace of mastery, the gateway to meaningful work, the signal that you're engaging with life at a higher level. And remember this, if you don't choose your discipline, chaos will choose it for you. It's a strange thing, isn't it? That silence, something so simple, so ordinary, has become almost unbearable for most people. We avoid it instinctively as if stillness itself is dangerous. And maybe, in a way, it is. 2, because when you're silent, you're alone with your thoughts. And when you're alone with your thoughts, you're forced to confront them. 2, that's a kind of psychological exposure most people would rather escape. So they fill the silence with noise, with content, with motion, 2, with distraction, anything but the stillness of their own mind. But silence is not emptiness, it's not a void, it's an environment. 2, a structure in which attention is no longer pulled outward, but redirected inward. 2, and that's where the real work begins, not the outer work of performance or productivity, but the inner work of perception, clarity, and transformation. 2, because in silence, you start to hear what actually matters. Your conscience becomes audible. Your vision sharpens. Your values rise to the surface. 2, that's the point at which your focus begins to rebuild, not from pressure, but from principle. The problem is, 2, we've been conditioned to equate silence with boredom or laziness. That's wrong. Silence is the precondition for wisdom. 2, you cannot think deeply when you're constantly reacting. You cannot choose wisely when your senses are saturated. If you want to focus at a higher level, 2, you must retreat from the noise, not permanently, but rhythmically, intentionally. And it's not just about being alone. It's about being attentively alone. 2, because there's a kind of solitude that's indulgent, drifting, daydreaming, dissociating. But then there's the kind that's sharp, grounded, and confronting. 2, that kind of silence isn't an escape, it's a mirror. It shows you what you've been avoiding. It reveals where your attention has been compromised. 2. And in that revelation, there's the opportunity for course correction. In stillness, your mind becomes like a blade, honed exact, ready to cut through the noise and focus on what matters. But it won't happen by accident. You have to make space for it. You have to fight for it. 2. So here's the reality: if you don't create moments of silence, your focus will be shaped by noise. 2. And no one ever became who they were meant to be by listening to everything but themselves. The reason most people lose their focus isn't because they lack discipline. 2. It's because they lack direction. You can't maintain sustained attention on something that doesn't matter to you. And the hard truth is, if your focus is constantly being fractured, it may be because your vision isn't compelling enough to hold it together. 2. You're not distracted simply because you're weak. You're distracted because your why isn't strong. Purpose gives focus its gravity. 2. It pulls your attention inward, like a center of mass around which your decisions start to orbit. It transforms effort into investment, pain into process. Without it, even small obstacles feel overwhelming. But with it, suddenly, suffering becomes tolerable because you're suffering for something greater. 2. That shift in meaning changes everything. You see, attention is naturally drawn to what you emotionally value, and when you're uncertain about your purpose, you end up becoming reactive. You give your attention to whatever shouts the loudest, not what whispers the deepest. That's why people bounce from task to task, to idea, scrolling endlessly, not because they want to waste their life, but because they haven't anchored it to something they believe is worth living for. 2, and I'm not talking about some grand abstract mission. I'm talking about the deep personal reason you get out of bed every day. Maybe it's your family. 2, maybe it's a craft you believe in. Maybe it's a version of yourself you know you're capable of becoming. Whatever it is, it needs to be real. 2, it needs to be specific. It needs to matter to you. Because when it does, even a quiet, focused hour becomes an act of rebellion against the chaos. 2, a deliberate choice to build something meaningful instead of consuming something mindless. This is the philosophical core of fighting for your focus. 2, it's not just a battle for attention, it's a battle for alignment. Focus that's not rooted in purpose becomes mere discipline. 2, and discipline without direction eventually decays into burnout or bitterness. But when you know why you're aiming your attention in a certain direction, 2, your focus becomes fuel. It renews itself. So ask yourself, what am I really focusing for? Because without a reason, distraction wins. But with purpose, even silence becomes strategy, and every moment of focus becomes a step toward meaning. We tend to treat focus like it's a skill, something to improve so we can work faster, read more, or accomplish our tasks more efficiently. And in a superficial sense, that's true. But at a deeper level, focus isn't just about getting things done. It's a moral obligation, a responsibility. 2, because every moment you give your attention to something, you're making a value judgment. You're declaring, this is worthy of my awareness. This deserves my time, to my energy, my existence. That's not a small thing, that's a profound act. Because your attention is finite, you only get so much of it in this life. 2, so where you direct it says everything about who you are and what you believe matters. If you allow your attention to be consumed by trivialities, then your life will be shaped by trivial things. And that is a kind of moral failure, not in the sense of guilt or shame, 2, but in the sense that you've failed to honor your potential. We live in a time where it's become normal, even encouraged, to give our minds away, to surrender our thoughts to algorithms, to trade reflection for reaction, to live on the surface, avoiding depth at every turn. And yet, the great tragedy is not that we're distracted, but that we've accepted distraction as harmless, as if it's just part of modern life. But it's not harmless. 2, because every moment lost to distraction is a moment stolen from something meaningful. Your relationships, your work, your inner development. Focus, then, 2, becomes an act of integrity. When you choose to concentrate, to be fully present, you're not just training your brain, you're aligning your life with something deeper. You're saying, I will not be passive in the face of noise. 2, I will not be careless with the one resource that defines the quality of my existence. That's a courageous stance in a world that profits from your fragmentation. 2, so don't treat focus like a tool. Treat it like a vow, a commitment to becoming the kind of person who refuses to let life slip by in a haze of half-awareness. 2, because the real danger isn't that you'll be distracted. It's that you'll stop noticing what you're missing.